There is a road in Niagara Falls where 1,700 men were killed, wounded, or lost in a single summer night. The bloodiest night of the war on Canadian soil, and it is named for a farmer, a Quaker, a man whose faith forbade him to fight. And for generations, our family swore the name on that battlefield was ours. Some of that is true. Some of it isn't. That's what the record is for. On the evening of July 25, 1814, an American army and a British and Canadian one collided at a crossroads a mile from the falls. The fight went 6 hours into the dark, much of it for the hilltop burying ground where the British guns stood. Men fought hand to hand between the headstones. By midnight, the two armies had taken nearly equal shares of one terrible number. Among the fallen were the commanders themselves. The American generals, Brown and Scott, both badly wounded. The British general, Drummond, shot through the neck and still on the field. And when it ended, nobody agreed it had ended. The Americans withdrew to Fort Erie. The British held the ground by morning. Two nations went home and wrote two different endings to the same night, and both are still taught today. By most counts, it remains the bloodiest battle ever fought in what is now Canada. The hill is still there. So is the burying ground, with the battle monuments standing among stones that were there before the guns. And one more resident. Laura Secord, the most famous legend Canada kept from that war, is buried on the same hill. Today you can stand at a bus stop on the bloodiest ground in Canada. History does that. It hides in plain sight under an ordinary name. So, whose name? William Lundy. He and his wife Nancy were Quakers who came up from Pennsylvania and settled here around 1790, more than 20 years before the war. Their farm tract became a public road in 1803. Neighbors called it what neighbors always call a road, by the name of the family that lived on it. Which means the bloodiest battle in Canadian history is named for a man whose faith forbade war itself. And here is the part that textbooks skip. When the armies marched up that road in July of 1814, soldiers rested at the Lundy house on the way to the fight. And after the guns fell silent, the same house filled with the wounded. A hospital in a pacifist's parlor. William Lundy never asked for a battle. History nailed one to his fence line anyway. It was not the first time the name carried more than the man. In 1689, at the Siege of Derry, a governor named Robert Lundy fled the city and became Lundy the Traitor, burned in effigy in Ireland to this day. The record suggests a man who lost his nerve, not a man who sold the city. Two legends, one name, both bigger than the men who wore it. Remember that. B. It's about to happen a third time to us. In our family, it was said plainly, Lundy's Lane and the War of 1812, that's all related to those Lundys. Our Lundys. The name on the battlefield, ours. That was the story. So we pulled the paper. Robert Lundy, of the township of Thorold, Yeoman, emigrated from Ireland in 1823. The Scout. Joseph Lundy, the head of the family, native of the parish of Carrick-Macross in the county of Monaghan, followed in July of 1824 with a wife and 10 children. Two petitions, filed back-to-back at York, September 27, 1825. Numbers 100 and 101. The next day, the council granted them land, 100 acres and 200. The minute was recorded with the Reverend John Strawn presiding, a name Canadian history knows well. By 1827, they had moved on to Mono Township, where the 1837 directory finds them settled on their concessions. Now do the arithmetic. The legend never did. The lane had its name by 1803. The battle was 1814. Our family stepped off the boat in 1823. Not our lane, not our battle. The paper is final. and the paper is signed in their own hands. But before you call the old story a lie, look where the boat landed them. Thorold. Minutes from the battlefield. For 3 years, Joseph and Robert Lundy, Irish Presbyterians from Monaghan, farmed and worked the canal country in the shadow of a famous road that already wore their name. Someone else's name. And in November of 1824, a son was born to this family. John Lundy, born, as the record puts it, near Niagara Falls. A Lundy child, born within earshot of Lundy's Lane 9 years after the guns. 100 years later, the story had compressed, the way family stories do. Not invented, bent. We lived by Lundy's, Lane became Lundy's, Lane is ours. The record kills the kinship and explains the legend in the same breath. That's not the myth dying. That's the myth finally making sense. The lane kept its name. The family kept its story. And both, it turns out, were telling the truth. Just not the truth everyone assumed. That's the whole job. Not to take the stories away, to find out which truth they were keeping.